Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for today. We have Dr. Lucchini here to give us an amazing presentation about his research in the Amazon. So to start off, let me go ahead and introduce him.
All right, so everyone, let's welcome Dr. Lucchini. He is a physician scientist specializing in occupational and environmental health. And he led the Division of Occupational and Environmental Medicine at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where he also directed the World Trade Center, Data Center, and Research Center for New York and New Jersey, coordinating epidemiologic health surveillance of post 9/11 cleanup workers and overseeing training and research across Rutgers, NYU, CUNY, and NGIT. Since 2020, Dr. Lucchini has been a professor at our department at the Department of Environmental Health Sciences and a director of the NIEHS-funded Training in Environmental Neuroscience program. His research examines how neurotoxic chemicals, including metals, pesticides, persistent organic pollutants, and particulate matter affect the nervous system from neurodevelopment to neurodegeneration. His team has studied populations across the lifespan with field sites in highly industrialized Italian provinces such as Brescia and Taranto. His work is evolving toward integrating the exposome with multiomics, genomics, epigenomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics, lipidomics to identify predictive biomarkers and disease profiles. His work also is he's looking at investigating the long-term health effects in World Trade Center responders and survivors, focusing on cancer, respiratory, mental health, and neurological outcomes. Recently, he has expanded his research to the Amazon basin, spearheading the creation of a scientific network on mercury contamination and co-exposures in support of planetary health.
Thank you, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you. I think it started in the kitchen of our building. The kitchen conversation are always the best in academia. So I welcome everybody, but I encourage everybody to entertain in the kitchen when you can, because some stuff that can always come out of it. So I was there one day, I guess a couple months ago, and they kind of talked. I don't know how we ended up discussing about Amazon, and I understood that Dr. Anderson, Dr. Oliva, and Jenkins are working on the Amazon in your institute, and so we had a great meeting, and they explained to me what they're doing in terms of all the water systems, etc. And one of the things that I saw was a fantastic mapping. It was a great map of the Amazon going from one place to the other across, I guess, mainly Brazil, but maybe not only Brazil. I don't remember exactly. And I immediately thought, wow, we should do something similar, or maybe, I don't know, kind of integrating, because we are interested in the health outcomes, of course, from environmental and occupational exposure to a lot of things. And so this could be a great, as always, collaboration to try to understand what the environment is ultimately causing, not only to the biosystem itself, obviously that's super important, but also to humans who live in that environment. So, okay, so this is what I'm going to talk today, and so because the title is the Amazon Exposome, I really need to touch a little bit. I think I can get rid of this stuff here. Okay. So tell you a little bit about this exposome concept, maybe about the genome. So the genome is something that I guess started in the 50s, etc. There was this big push to discover the DNA, thinking, okay, if we are able to decode and read all the DNA, human DNA, we will know everything about the diseases, right? That was the big ambitious kind of plan at that time. So a lot of funding, a lot of work, a lot of effort in the DNA. And today we know that the DNA, the genome, the genetic itself cannot explain all the diseases. It may explain, of course, 20%. It depends on what disease are you thinking about, diabetes or cardiovascular or cancer, or of course, there's a component that is genetic, but not everything is about the genome. So, and the exposome came out because it's not only the gene, that our DNA, what is it? So the environment, okay? And here you go with this exposure of everything in the environment that can also work together with the genome. So it's gene environment in interaction, as we call it. And so this is basically the main idea, thinking about the ecosystem with industrial pollution, but also social determinants like poverty, etc., physical, chemical, and lifestyle. Okay, physical activity. So all these factors come into the framework, and now there's a lot of discussion about how to measure all these things, etc., etc., etc. So it's not obviously it's kind of a challenging process, but you have to think about this in parallel with what? Obviously, with the huge development of data science, right? This is in parallel to me going with the development of data sciences. And because if you want to consider all these elements together, you need to be able to do it. And nowadays, how do you do this with data, right? So bioinformatics, etc., comes into this because you have to be able to gather a lot of information at the same time, and then of course how to use this data with a statistical model that grow always bigger and bigger and bigger to get into this data analysis. And again, ultimately with AI, further step ahead that can incorporate all this information to try to give us also prediction with these predictive models that we think are important for prevention. Because if we can predict something that may be happening in the future from now, okay, so we can try to avoid that. So the prediction, etc., etc. That's why these multi-omics, metabolomics, lipidomics, transcriptomics, etc., all we can measure in human. Those are information that we are trying to analyze and incorporate and utilize to come out with biomarkers, something that we can go and measure, and that biomarker can be predictive for something that could happen. So in a nutshell, pretty much in a nutshell. So, okay. Any questions about this stuff? It's just a little bit kind of basic. I mean, in environmental health sciences, this is basically the current trend that is kind of happening. So, but this is important because okay. But apart from health, this is the cost of, now we get into the Amazon. So this is the cost of gold, okay? You see the gold market, okay? The gold market, you see, this is September 2024, it went up, and this is December 2025, so it's skyrocketing the cost of gold. Don't ask me why. I'm not a financial expert able to interpret and explain all this movement, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, if you go here there was a pandemic, I don't know what happened, and then blah, 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 it goes up. So this is a gold market. The gold market is a huge driver, planetary level, of course. Okay, this is Central Mexico. This is an interesting piece that came out with Associated Press. You can this is in Spanish version, but obviously there's the English version of it. This is a very interesting article that gets into the Central Mexico mines. There are miners that are extracting mercury. Okay, they extract mercury, a lot of mercury, more and more. The huge increase of demand for mercury extraction, especially from here, Central Mexico, that is reaching clearly I'm not a geologist, so there must be a reason for central Mexico to have that particular exploitation and a lot of things. And it goes from Mexico to the Amazon. Why does it go to the Amazon? Because of gold. Gold extraction requires mercury. Okay, why? Because mercury creates an amalgama, okay, with gold. So you have those amalgamas, and then when you have the amalgamas, you heat it. I go like this because literally there's people with something that heats the amalgama, and with the amalgama and with the heat, you have a separation, gold, okay, on one hand, and mercury on the other hand. By doing this, you have the human exposure of the workers. The workers are exposed, inhale mercury, and not only that, it goes in the atmosphere, and then it comes down with the ray into the water where it's transferred chemically from inorganic mercury to organic mercury, methyl mercury. Okay, certain bacteria in the water, they do this. So they transfer, they change it, okay, from inorganic to organic. And then it gets into the fish, and then it gets into the diet, etc., etc., etc. Methyl mercury is neurotoxic because it is methylated version of the inorganic form. And the organic form is lipophilic, so that means it can penetrate easier in through our biological barriers, and it can reach the brain, and it can be very neurotoxic. And the world knew about this problem with mercury from Japan, because in Japan, in the 50s or 60s, I don't remember exactly today, there's actually a great movie of Minamata story. Minamata was a bay in Japan where there was this big company that produced the films for the prints of for the photos. What the famous company?
Fuji
company. I can say because it's very clear that it was them. So they polluted the environment with a lot of mercury. In the end, the population started to develop really neurological problems. The kids with all this terrible abnormalities, etc. So the Minamata disease it revealed what does it mean to have a mercury exposure and neurotoxicity, okay, for the humans. So and the United Nations now they have a Minamata Convention that is also trying as much as the UN can to avoid problems with mercury on the planetary level. So now again, this is all to get to the beloved Amazon. Because you can see this is where we are focusing today. This is 9 countries, okay? Brazil, they call it from Brazil, is the giant here, okay? But not the only one, okay? You can see that Brazil it has a big part of it, but also Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, and the Guyanas here, Suriname, they have something. You know, there's this story now with Guyanas as well, because all of these things you can imagine are driven also by political decision, by political orientation, etc. Deforestation, yes, deforestation, no. And a lot of problems can reverberate across all these enormous territory, which is this is a big as more or less as Europe. So it's a big territory, and you know about the Amazon is very important for not only for this South American region, but it's important for the entire planet because of the. I'm not an expert into this, but you probably know more than me about the importance of the rainforest in the general ecosystem, etc., etc., etc. So it's huge, I guess, importance for the planetary level, not only for this region. And okay, so this is the OTGA, Organización del Tratado de Cooperación Amazónica. This is an important. We have Stephanie Moncada here. She's the expert in international affairs. And so this gets into the political level, which is very important as well, because these are 9 countries. They have this organization that is taking care of everything that can happen in the Amazon. And in 2023, there was this Belen Declaration from this country that is interesting for me for this point. Creation of intergovernmental scientific technical panel. The creation of these types of panel is important because with civil society, indigenous people, to promote debate on studies, methodologies, monitoring, alternatives aimed to reduce deforestation, promote sustainable development, prevent environmental imbalance. So this is, okay, effort from the political level to say, let's create a kind of a interface, a space where we can listen to the scientists, we can listen to academia, we can listen to researchers. What are they gonna tell us at the political level to make our decision based more on science? Okay, you can understand the importance of this. Okay, so we are in contact with this organization. We always try to get them involved and participate, but as you can imagine, it's not always so easy to get into this, but it's important that it's there. So this is our academic consortium. You can see I happen to know these colleagues from Rio, Brazil, Ministry of Indigenous. So in Brazil, there's a Ministry of Indigenous People that was created by the current administration. Very important because you have also a direct collaboration, a direct, kind of relationship with the representative of the indigenous nation. And so you may know that there's a lot of indigenous populations. They are kind of united into some representatives that can speak for almost all of them. So it's very important as scientists to keep that conversation because then we have to work with them. So, and the University of Parabellum, and then we have Alok from FIU, and then we have Peru, myself, and also this colleague from Barcelona, Spain, and Cartagena, Colombia, and Peru, and so we started our effort in these meetings to come up with a consortium, academic consortium, that is keeping together all these scientists that are already working in some of the location. That's why I was so impressed to see that map from Dr. Anderson about the Amazon and all the places, because they are also going to certain places, certain villages, certain location. And so that's also geographically, I think, important to locate, to have an idea. Also, why an academic consortium? Build a one unified human study of Amazonian population, because there's one here, one there, etc., etc. So it's kind of very nice, but okay, it will be better to congregate. In epidemiology, there is always this effort to gain statistical power, which means, okay, one thing is a study on 10 people, another thing is a study on 1,000 people. So you gain more statistical power. So what you can observe is more solid. And not only that, I think in this case, you see there's different countries. So it's actually this effort also to keep together different countries about this. Share and optimize resources. We always need money. We always need funding. There is funding that goes to the Amazon research, also from Europe, from a lot of foundations, Bill Gates and this and that, Rockefeller, etc. You know that there was this COP30 in Belém this year. That was in the Amazon, the Conference on the Climate of the United Nations. So after the conference, there was $300 million, if I understood correctly, for studies in the Amazon. So knock on the door, give us something to start something that could be solid, also scientifically more solid. Not it's that solid, but gain statistical power, gain epidemiological relevance. Identify solution, test their effectiveness, very important. Train new generation Amazonian expert. Okay? Of course, this is always keep an eye on the community, empower Amazonian community. So, of course, we are very conscious not to impose our Western, whatever kind of, point of view, because we have to be equal with them. I think this is extremely important. We're not going to teach something to them personally. This is my personal belief, but we have to say, okay, we have maybe technology that that can be utilized and to help you, so we can train and we can offer our expertise, etc. But very crucial to get their collaboration and involvement, also to be able to listen in a way, So we came up with this publication. This is a kind of a review that we did about the update of all these studies, environmental and occupational health, and some indication about what to do. If you are interested, there's also this recording that was one of these sessions that we have for this global health session in 2024. And there's a link if you are interested to listen from everyone in this consortium. And then we get to the COP30 in Belém this year. And we had this what's it called? A special session, side event. So when you go to the COP, big conference on climate, every year there's a COP. I didn't know much about it, so now I'm learning what are they. And I understand there's all this negotiation and there's a lot of expectation, and maybe they don't meet that expectation. Like this year, the Brazilian came saying, okay, we're going to get out of the fossil fuel, and it didn't end up that way. But at least it's a constant effort. Somebody says, why do you keep talking about this every year and nothing happens? It's not totally true. I understand. Something is happening in terms of controlling the emission, etc. So, anyways, we had this space, and when you go to these COP meetings, you can apply for side events. You can propose side events. There's a lot of people circulating, and they can come and listen. So we did this in collaboration with the colleagues from Barcelona, from Africa, because it was about the Amazon, but also to other experiences, linking also of course the climate problems and solution to improve the situation at the population level. And this is us at the session. And so we were having a very good session connecting the Amazon with Ethiopia, Southern Africa, and Southern Europe, talking about exposure and health, cities and indigenous workers. We had a representative of the indigenous population at a high level, and listening to her was fantastic, I think. And then portable sensing for tactical intervention. I will show you an example of what does this mean, portable sensing, because sensors are crucial also to improve the possibility of doing measurement locally with biosensor, cheap and affordable, and with those to avoid expensive in collecting samples, ship it to the United States or somewhere else, waiting, paying, and all this. Let's do it locally with some sustainable tools. And okay, so basically this was the main concept we have for the Amazon. All these factors, okay, deforestation, heat, gold and oil extraction going on at various levels. And all of this is basically causing exposure to chemicals like mercury, as I said, but also to microplastic, agrochemicals. And interestingly, the representative of the indigenous people, she showed us a study done by them showing exposure to diesel. And we thought, whoa, look at that. Why diesel? Because of all these big trucks going back and forth throughout the Amazon, and the indigenous people and their structure, they were able to document all this exposure to diesel. So here we have to put another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So think about the exposome that I started with. So these are all components, right, of the total exposome, the exposure to all these components, okay, that end up in our human body and also into the the environment, and they can cause problems also by interacting between each other, right? Because so the traditional toxicology, when I was a student, it wasn't like this. You know, you became an expert in all mercury, or this, or that. No ideas of this holistic approach. You were going one by one. One was expert on lead or mercury or this or that, etc. So it was a little easier because you just had to deal with one specific problem. So now it's changing, of course, because it's more realistic. This is more realistic, okay? It's not that we open one door, here's there's mercury, open the other door, there is microplastics. No, they can be mixed. And so this is reflecting the better what the situation can be. And again, of course, they can be impacting on workers and community health in those places. This is what is being done. For example, this is we can measure mercury in blood, in plasma, in urine, and so this is hair. Hair is utilized because it's non-invasive. You don't have to draw blood, and so it's easier to get a sample, and do all these measurements. So these are places, and this is hair mercury in the past and now. So I told you about Japan, okay, the Minamata problem, big, okay. So it went up to 30 ppm micrograms per.
This is the whole country, or Africa?
Sorry.
Where in Japan? Where was that from? The whole country, or just Minnesota?
This was my Minamata. This is to give you an example of that particular situation that caused all those problems. When you go this high, this is terrible. You have malformation. There's a very nice movie of all this that is talking. That is about this photographer from New York that goes there, and it's very good if you can watch it. But it's very informative. And so today Japan went down a lot. You can see, and also in these other places like the Faroe Islands, they are North Scotland. So I'm, they eat a lot of whale meat. Whale is big. So big fish can incorporate a lot of mercury. So for them, eating all that whale meat, it was causing high exposure. The Seychelles, another island. Japan is also an island. So these are all places where people eat a lot of fish, okay, basically. Seychelles, another one. So but you see today, they came down. This is my country, okay, so it would be like that. These are the references from US EPA, WHO. These are whatever that you should not exceed to avoid health problems. And so, but they went down because of the policies, right? The effect of the policy. They started to say, don't do this, don't do that. Especially pregnant women, don't eat tuna fish or swordfish, big fish accumulate more mercury, etc. So, and that's the effect to reduce the exposure. Not in the Amazon. Amazon was high, is still high. Okay, and certain places of the Amazon, we have data that go much higher than this. Okay, so it's a problem really today for the Amazon, that's for sure. And these are more details about Brazil, about Peru, but these are all averages that I did. But basically, this is what you can see, and this is mercury in fish. You can measure mercury in fish. People eat fish and it gets okay. So if you notice, the level in fish overall, they have not decreased. They have not decreased. Okay, so fish is still rich in mercury, and obviously, if the gold market is like that, Mexican work like crazy to get mercury, etc. All this process, unfortunately, the source of the exposure is still there. The policy, not in the Amazon, but the policy can have an impact. Of course, they can reduce exposure because people don't eat, for policies. But if you look at the average data, the situation is more or less like this. But this is this is because of the whale, okay? Because this is a very special situation where the whales are rich in mercury because they are very big and they accumulate more. That's a simple reason for that, okay? All right, so, okay, so these are some of the studies of our colleagues. This is the Universidad de Cartagena, I guess. No, sorry, no, I'm not sure at this moment, but this is to show one of the example that they are doing. For example, they also do studies looking into pregnant women, and they do all this testing. And this one, I wanted to show you this because you can see that the total mercury level in pregnant women can go this high. Look at that. And so, and it's not that safe for pregnant women. So pregnant women, think about it. There's a developing organism and everybody can cross the placenta, gets into that level, it is very toxic. Much more toxic than for an adult, obviously, because the fetus doesn't have the defenses developed, cannot excrete, is very vulnerable. So it's very important to look into pregnant women, what's going on. And this is total air mercury in babies. It's not that low. And you can see here, again, the safe levels are exceeded. So this is very recent and it's very concerning. This is the Colombian. You can see here is this part of Colombia, right, where we have the Amazon. And this is what they do. They get the drag, the material, it comes in, and then they process it. You see, you have the material here, and then the operators add mercury. Again, they add mercury because they want to create the amalgam. And then they heat it, etc. And by this process, you have a lot of dispersion of mercury into the water. So the bacterial methylation and all that, it gets into the fish and it comes into the diet intake. Okay, this is one lab in the Amazon of our colleagues. I think these are the Colombian colleagues. They go around and see, they get the fish, they sample, they do all this work. This is the lab. It goes into the water like that. And so, of course, this is the environment where you're going to do science here. So you have to get into that and be equipped and trained, etc., to be able to do it. And so you see also the measurement that they do. It's interesting here because you can see that not all species have the same level. So this is important in terms of communication to the people. Try to eat this type of fish instead of that one because they are different. Okay, so this is a very first-hand return of the measurement to the people. Say, hey, try to avoid that type of fish, eat the other one, something like that. So this is Peru. Madre de Dios is another part of Peru. And these are other studies, very interesting because they do also memory, executive function. They do this neurological testing, and you can see the association with the mercury in hair in almost all of these things. So it's clear that even if you don't get to the Minamata level, even if we are lower, there's still an impact that you can detect. You can see that it's causing problems in this function. So let me see if I can show you this video. Apparently not. It was working when we tried. Oh my God, so. Oh, maybe like this.
This smartphone-based sensor is specifically designed for phosphate monitoring. Key components include a custom visualization device, screw, nut, and a specialized cuvette cap housing LED lamp. The visualization device securely holds a cuvette contains the detection solution, enabling precise phosphate measurements. All components are mounted onto the smartphone, which is positioned on a custom holder to ensure stability and optimal alignment. To conduct the phosphate analysis, begin by setting up the custom visualization device and connecting it to the smartphone. This device was designed to fit precisely onto the smartphone, blocking ambient light and eliminating external interferences. Next, add the phosphate-containing sample to the detection assay and insert the cuvette into its designated position. Capture the picture. Finally, use our developed phone application to determine the exact phosphate concentration in the sample and obtain detailed information about the water quality. This provides a simple and convenient analysis of phosphate.
So this is something that we're working on. As you can see, this is an example of biosensor that you can imagine. How nice it is to have this methodology in an environment like that. So you can do some sort of analysis in a relatively inexpensive test. If you have to sample something, it can be hair, it can be fish, it can be whatever, soil, dust, this and that, water, ship it to the United States, wait, how long, I don't know, pay a lot of money. So you can imagine the difference with this type of technology. Okay, so the other part of my talk is the microplastic. The microplastic are another component that is being studied also in the Amazon. So the microplastic is this, you can see the fragments, the filaments, it can be red, it can be blue, they can be like this, 0.1 millimeter, etc. So it's being measured, and this is the Cameroons, the Amazonia, and so you can find it in the thorax, in the belly. So we can definitely eat it. Okay, they're delicious, but unfortunately we also eat some plastic in it. Unfortunately, so why this microplastic in there? Deforestation opens the door. A lot of plastic comes in. A lot of agrochemicals. So all these components, unfortunately, are introduced, and so now there's always a great concern. So our colleagues, especially in Brazil at the moment. So this was a very large study done in 2023. I think, no, I don't have the map, but this was 40 sample along 1,500 kilometers in the Brazilian Amazon, from Belém, I don't know, to Manaus, etc. So a lot of samples. Okay, you can see what they do. They get the water and then they look into it and the characterization, microscopy, infrared spectroscopy, etc. So again, more data about the presence of all these microplastics. I don't know if you have seen this. Of course, the great concern comes from this knowledge. The micro and nanoplastics, unfortunately, the same little things that you can see here in the Amazonian water, you can find them in the plaques, in the atherosclerotic plaques in humans. So you know what it means. When you have high cholesterol and triglycerides, you can have those plaques in the arteries. And now we see that not only cholesterol, not only the lipids, but also the plastic can combine somehow and get into these plaques. So that's another concern. So the microplastic can cause another problems to human that we were not aware. So this is an initial study that was done, but obviously it's important, and the New England Journal of Medicine published it, and because it's an important first observation. So basically, I'm almost finished. So what we're going to do with this consortium, again, I said, we're trying to, this effort to basically get together with all these colleagues. As you have seen, they have different protocols, they have different locations, they have different data already collected. So in our process, in the epidemiological assessment, this means homogenization of protocol and data. This seems to be easy to do, is definitely not, because everybody has a way of doing things, of storing data and protocols, even if there are guidance, etc. But there are always differences. And so the big effort is to homogenize into especially the data, into the data management and the data organization, that instead of being fragmented, it has to be consolidated in one place, basically. And the idea to address holistic exposomic approach, as I said at the beginning, to occupational and community mixed exposure to microplastic, mercury, agrochemical, also asbestos, and I should add here also diesel, climate, and health disparities in the end. So we ended up, I don't know if it's too small, I apologize, with the policy brief. These are our kind of suggestions. As I said before, as scientists, we are also in a position that we can make recommendations. We should make recommendations to the policy makers, to the political level, to suggest what we think should be done. So combined exposure, not single hazards. They address data caps and fragmented evidence, technology without local ownership, formalize, and this is what we're working on, to formalize an Amazon Climate Environment Health Consortium, create infrastructure, administrative compensation mechanism for the host indigenous people, strengthen mercury and chemical contamination control. This is very important in gold mining and oil extraction. Mercury and chemical contamination control. So there are regulations, there are law, there is a lot of things, but then what happens in reality, you can imagine. How do we control, how do we enforce in the forest? Big question mark. Very difficult, very challenging, but necessary. Move to climate compatible, just logistics in the Amazon, protect workers and children from the heat as well. So I didn't get into the effect of the temperature on this and the humidity, but as you can imagine, high temperature increases volatility, increases the potential for exposure and for the contamination. Build share indicator, data system and capacity, call to action, and this is basically getting into the conversation with the United Nations, Human Rights Council, General Assembly, etc., etc. We'll try to be more present at the next COP in Turkey. If we will be able to have again like a proposal, some side event and get the momentum. But I think it's very important as scientists to join forces to consolidate a collaboration, because we're not that strong in the end of the day as scientists, unfortunately, compared to all these mega financial and monetary interests. So scientists must have a voice, clearly objective as much as possible, but technically supported. And we have the ways to, as you have seen, to also to propose, I guess, innovation. You see that the biosensor is just an example, but it's in this case a very important one. And suggest the technological and scientific advancement to be able to understand better what the problems are, where they are, what are the potential sustainable solution, what are the more necessary macro solution, but that which is more at the political level. But as a scientist, I think it can be important for us to raise our voice and do this in many ways as much as possible. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. Okay, just these are some of the fantastic pictures that that she took, Stephanie, in the Amazon. And again, fantastic environment. I encourage you to go and visit because it's really worthwhile and fantastic. Thank you for your attention.